What's up, guys? Came to talk TV with you. Um, for those of you who follow me, I don't have much of a life. I go to work, I go to school, I take care of my child, and that's pretty much it. Television and music are my entertainment. And I am one of those fans that, really goes in. So I do what I call fan love deep dives. And in my fan love deep dives, I just inhale content from artists, entertainers, whatever it is that I'm in the zone for at the moment. So, I sometimes it's like, a new artist piques my interest. Sometimes it's an old artist that I haven't seen in a while doing something. So, Madeline Mantock from the Charmed reboot, who was my absolute favorite, and when she made her exit, so did I. Um, but I hadn't seen her in much since she left Charm after season three. Um, and I apologize for saying I don't usually do that, but I'm thinking a lot. So anyway, I hadn't seen her since she left Charm in season three, and just recently she did a play called Hamnet in the West End. Now, of course, I couldn't just run to the West End from Maryland, so I didn't see it, but it just kind of put her back on my radar because I hadn't seen her in anything. So I was looking for stuff because I had done a fan love deep dive of Madeline Mantalk. Um, when after I saw the pilot actually of Charmed, because I was that taken with her character and her talent, and I was absorbed. I didn't know who Madeline Mantock was, but I was absorbed in that character, so I wanted to know more about the actress. And that's usually how it happens for me. If I see something that I like, and then I have to follow that actress or that entertainer, singer, songwriter, whatever, because something that they've done has piqued my interest. So that was the case with Madeline Mantock. And most of the things that I have found through International Movie Database and Prime and other streaming networks, I've already seen all of them. And so there was something that she had done, and I can't even remember what right now, that I hadn't seen that was available on BritBox. So I did the free 7-day trial to BritBox and ended up keeping it because I was supposed to watch that and get rid of it. But I like British television. My dear, dear friend Devon turned me on to British comedy in like the late 90s, early 2000s. So I watched Are You Being Served and the show with Hyacinth Bouquet and all that. So I enjoy British comedy and I enjoy cop shows from everywhere. So I watch British cop shows as well. And so after I kept this BritBox subscription full of Madeline Mantock, I was just going through stuff, and I've watched a couple of shows, and I've watched all of this series because they don't have seasons; they call them series. So I've watched all of this series. Now the difference between our shows that I find and British shows is they don't drag it out. You don't get a 27. Excuse me. You'll get a 27 season episode for most of their shows. The ones that I've watched so far have been between like 6 and 13 episodes for a series. So after I finish one series, I'm just like roll into another one because, like I said, I don't do nothing. I go to work, I go to school, I take care of my kid. That's it. So when I'm at home, I like to relax. I don't want to do nothing. Right here is where I am. I'm laying on my sofa right now, and this is what I do when I get home. I lay on my sofa until I go lay in my bed. Most of the time, that's it. Ain't no whole bunch of going outside. I'm not outside. I'm not. I've been out a couple times, but I'm not outside. So I'm sitting here and I'm watching these British cop shows, and I got hooked on Death in Paradise. So I've watched all 12 series of that, and I was upset that Sarah Martin's left because I like Sarah Martin's. So I was watching Sarah Martin's, excuse me, finding other stuff with her in it on BritBox, and it wasn't very easy to find a lot of stuff with Sarah Martin's. So after that, I looked up on Hope Street. Now, Hope Street was a very interesting uh, show, and the female lead detective sergeant in Hope Street was played by the actress Amara Karan. And I guess I'm saying her name wrong. I hope I'm not saying it wrong. And she played it says detective constable, but I feel like that was not her title. I feel like she was a DS, but it says DC because it went from DS to DC, and I'm like, when did it change? Because she never got a promotion. But anyway, she played DC or DS, whichever, Layla Hussein. And Layla Hussein had infiltrated gangs and as an undercover officer, and she had to go to this small town, and she continued to work as a police officer, but only her inspector knew why she was there. And it was because she had to testify against these gangs that she had infiltrated. Over the course of things, she and the inspector fell in love, and their story was always interrupted by his ex-wife. His ex-wife, who you just want to bang her in the forehead. So I don't know how long they've been married, but I mean, like, their kids were, I think, 17 and 15 or something like that. But so they'd been married a while. But she cheated on him with her son's gym teacher, got caught by her son. And so they split. So she took their daughter and moved away. He kept their son and stayed home. I've never understood that 50-50 split kind of thing when it comes to divorce and kids or whatever. But then I ain't never been married and I only got one kid, so it ain't never mattered. But anyway, and so and then she comes back after. And now me personally, I always thought that I thought from the beginning that the inspector and Layla were involved because of the chemistry and the way they acted toward each other, but apparently they weren't till later on in the first season. And right as they're starting to, admit and address the fact that they are interested in and attracted to each other, here comes his mother, who is another one that make you want to pop her in the top of the head. And she's always in everybody's business, and she goes to tell the wife that the granddaughter needs to come back home. Well, the wife takes that as, I need to come back home and be a wife to my husband. Nah, that boat on sale. But she came back, so Layla's not trying to interfere with them getting back together because she don't want to be a home wrecker. And he was like, that's not happening. I'm not taking her back. We can raise these kids together, co-parent, whatever, but I can't ever forget what she done. And, I'm not in love with her anymore. I don't want to be with her. So him and Layla sleep together. And then the wife is going around telling everybody that they're back together. Not even so much that they're getting back together, but that they are back together. And he's like, that's news to me. But in the end, they end up still not being together. And I don't want to ruin everything because I've pretty much told y'all a lot about the show. And I don't want to ruin everything, but if you ever watch it, Series 1, episodes 9 and 10 really irked my soul. I'm sorry. It's a I don't know if it's a mosquito or what on my ceiling, but I got to get it. I'll be right back. I didn't get it, so if I happen to make a video tomorrow and it's a big spunk knot or something on my forehead, you know it done got me. But anyway, back to what I was saying. So I didn't like the way that it ended, and I felt like Amara Karan, and I'm probably butchering her name, but I felt like even though she gave a lot to that character, because in them 10 episodes they really went deep on some stuff, but I felt a lot of other stuff was left on the surface, and I would have liked to see what she would have done in different circumstances, so I have to watch other stuff, so whatever the genre calls for. So I did the International Movie Database search, and I gotta get my blanket on, and Prime search and other streaming networks and whatever. And so I found some other things with her. And I watched what did I watch? I can't even think of the first thing that I watched after. But I watched The Night Of, which was an HBO limited series. Man. Okay, first of all, this limited series was loaded with talent. So it was John Turturro, Amara Karan, But then I'm going down because I don't want to miss nobody. The late great Michael K. Williams, may he rest in peace. Then who else? Afton Williamson, he wasn't in there too long. Paulo Costanza, Mustafa Shakir, but that ain't what I'm looking for. Lord Jamar, I don't know who he is. Like I say, it was other people. I'm going through the cast list because I'm like, there was definitely other people that I'm not seeing listed in here, and I'm trying not to leave anybody out. But it was a great, oh my god, this show was amazing. Sticky Fingers from Onyx, Tretch from Naughty by Nature. Who else? I don't know. It was some other people, but they didn't make the list. So anyway, in this show, there's a kid who goes. He's supposed to be going out with some friends. The friend that that's supposed to pick him up and give him a ride calls him and says, "I couldn't get my brother's car. He's using it himself. I can't come get you." Or his brother said no or something. So, for some reason, he couldn't come to pick him up. So this is called The Night of. HBO Max or now just Max or streaming service or whatever. But in The Night of, Amara Karan plays an attorney. And this kid is he steals his dad's cab. His dad owns a cab with two other people. He steals his dad's cab to go to this party in Manhattan or somewhere and doesn't know how to turn off the on duty lights on top of the cab. He can't put it out of service because he doesn't know how. So people keep jumping into his cab and then getting pissed off because he's like, I'm not on duty, get out. So this girl jumps in and he tells her the same thing, I'm not on duty. There's something wrong with the light. And she was like, kind of sketchy, but she was like, I don't, you're not going to make me get out, are you? He says, no. And she's a pretty girl. So, he's a guy. He's interested in the pretty girl. And they're talking and they're driving. He asked her where she wants to go, blah, 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 yada, yada. To make a very long story short and just tell you should watch the movie The Night of, or the limited series The Night of on Max streaming services. Um, he's framed for her murder. And then he's in jail for a very long time, going up to trial. Like, really, because sometimes they make it like it'd be like 3 days. No, you be in jail for a minute waiting on your trial date. So he's in jail for a while, and it shows how he is initially depicted as the boy next door, the good boy that begins to unravel as the story carries on. And he goes from being this scared kid in jail for a crime he didn't commit to a true convict in prison. So it was really good, and it really opened up, and you got to see more of what Amara Karan can do. So I had to keep going. So I was looking at stuff, and if you go onto internationalmoviedatabase.com and you do a rundown of a particular talent, it'll show you. Excuse me, I never start yawning until I start talking to you guys. It'll give you a rundown of their work. And so that's how I find new things to watch when I want to do an artist deep dive. And so I then watched, I think it's Jadu. That was very good. That was a good family friendly love type of film. It was good. So another one that I was suggesting. It's on Tubi. It's available on Tubi. So I watched that on Tubi. But after that, there was. I'm trying to get back up to the list so it can tell me what I'm looking for. I'm going too fast. So after I watched Hope Street and I watched The Night of, I watched Jadu, And then I saw the trailer for All in Good Time, and it looked funny. So I was like, well, let's see her do comedy, because even though Jadu is funny, it's heartfelt, type of, not even rom com, but kind of rom com, and it had my boy Ichabod Crane in it from Sleepy Hollow, so that was cool. But All in Good Time really looked like a straight up comedy, so I wanted to see her do comedy. Well, it's funny, but it's not a comedy. It's different stuff. But when I tell you that this movie got so deep, now this movie, All in Good Time, was released in 2012, and in the movie, um, it starts at the wedding day of a young couple, um, Indian couple in London, and living in London, their family. I'm wondering, like, does London have like a really huge Indian population? Because a lot of the Indian movies and Hindu and whatever I see are set in London. Um, so this couple gets married. Father and son don't really get along. Father inserts himself in a lot of the most wrong places he could be. And so it's their wedding night, and they go to have sex. His brother's like booby trapped his bed. The joint falls apart. Is the next night they try to have sex. His parents are in the other room having sex. The entire house is like tissue paper. You can hear everything. He's grossed out. He's like, there's no way I can do that while they're doing it. I can't. And so every night it's something. And then, like, he is suffering from ED. And this is like, a young guy. And his wife has saved herself, so she's a virgin. And so he, men and their frail male egos, once he can't get it up and stuff ain't working right, he starts to come at her verbally, and was like, well, excuse me if I'm not perfect at this, but you seem like a pro. And she was like, I've never, done this. Now she's doing all the things that a wife is supposed to do to try and please her husband in the bedroom. So she done went out and got nighties and books and videos and whatever, trying to learn what to do. And so then he insults her by saying, oh, she done it before because she's too good at it. So it goes on and on. And it starts to build up. So at 2 weeks, they still haven't had sex. Everything has gone wrong. They've been swindled out of their honeymoon money, so they didn't get to take a honeymoon. They're broke and saving money and trying to find their own place, so they're living with his family. It's just a whole thing. And she goes to her mother and she talks to her mother, and her mother is like, this is a family issue. And she was like, no, it's not. I shouldn't have even told you. And so her mother goes to his mother. Well, her parents come to his parents, and they have a meeting, and they tell them that they still haven't consummated their marriage yet. And while they're talking, now this is the part that really got me. It wasn't even about the main couple. Was they were talking, and they were saying, how stranger things have happened on honeymoons. And the families are the, I think it's the Dutes and the Patels. I think that's how it goes. I think that's their names. But the Patels are Amara Karan's family, and the Dutes are the husband's family. And so why is this not moving? What the hell? My remote control is being funny. I don't know why. We'll go back then. I don't know. So anyway, she said I think it's Dutes. I be trying to tell y'all and had the right information because I didn't take notes. Normally I take notes, I write it down, I come to you, I talk to you about it, but I'm just talking. We're just talking here. Hold on for a second. Okay, I had to look. It's Dutt, I guess that's how you pronounce it. It's Dutt. So his family is the Dutts, and her family are the Patels. So Mr. and Mrs. Patel go over to Mr. and Mrs. Dutt, who are Lopa and Ashara. I think that's how you say it. Eshwar. And Eshwar is played by Harish Patel, who is everything I've ever seen him in. He's hilarious. If you've seen Four Weddings and a Funeral, he's in that. Um, but like not the original though. He's like in the remake from 2019. Um, but he's like this larger than life character, and on his honeymoon he took his best friend. So it's him, his wife, and his best friend, and his wife is explaining how wrong and awkward this looks. And she says, he was like, I never, she said it would look kind of queer to anybody on the outside looking in, like, two guys and a girl on a honeymoon, this is weird. And he was like, I never looked at him that way or had feelings for him in that way. He was just a good friend and he did so much for me. And he gave me the money to bring you over. And he told me to take you on a honeymoon. So how could I leave him? It's like, him and his best friend had been in business together. And all the money that they had raised, they had saved to bring her over from India to London. And so when they got married, his friend gave him what personal savings that he had to take her on a honeymoon. And he was like, how could I not include him in that? So the three of them went on a honeymoon together. And the way he's talking, you would think that Mr. Dutt had some kind of relationship or love affair or whatever with this friend because of the way he talks about him, but he denies it or whatever. And he was like, I need a drink. So he goes to the liquor store to get some whiskey. While he's gone, Mrs. Dutt continues to talk to Mr. and Mrs. Patel about this friend. And she talks about how they grew close because he was always around. And she tells this story, and as a woman, it clicks. And I'm like, oh, she done burnt that thing up. And Mrs. Patel came to the same understanding, and then she lights a candle for him. So I don't know if this friend died or if he just stopped coming around because of them getting involved in him sleeping with his best friend's wife. And because she said she never saw him from that day to this. And so Mrs. Patel goes up and gives Mrs. Dutt a hug, and they go. And then Mr. Dutt comes back in, so he's listening. So I'm thinking he knows now because I done figured it all out. I'm like, she done had an affair, and that boy ain't his because him and the boy never got along. And I was like, that's not his son, and that's what it is. But I thought he knew because I felt like he treated him differently than he treated the other boy because he knew it wasn't his son. But um so years goes on, it's 25, 30 years later, and 25, I think they're 25, and he's making his wife, the younger Dutt is making his wife feel unbeautiful and unwanted and undesired because he can't get it up. And he told her he didn't know if he loved her anymore, and he really hurt her feelings. So she went to her mom and told her that they weren't having, that's when she went to her mom and told her that things weren't working or whatever. And she told him, there's too many people in this marriage. It's me, you, and your dad, and you're always trying to impress him. You're always trying to show him up. Why can't you just be you, and why can't we just be us? And that was a good point. But he had to go through whatever his emotions were and his issues with his dad. And so his dad's always trying to talk to him and trying to bring stuff out, but he also like criticizes and downgrades everything that the boy does. Oh, your job is not good. um do you think you're better than me? I live in this neighborhood, why can't you live in this neighborhood? That type of thing. And so they never talk, and the mom is always taking the boy's side. Well, they get it together after she leaves his ass because she's done being made to feel like she's inadequate because he got problems. And his father said, if you never listen to anything that I've ever told you, you listen to what I got to say now. You go get your woman and you bring her back here and you hold her and you never let her go and you love her. You don't let her leave you. So he goes back, he gets his wife. They talk. You have to see the movie to understand that there's a line that she says to him in the beginning that he says to her in the end. It was all sweet and everything. It was great. And so finally, they have sex. The sex scene is so freaking hilarious because there's these three nosy aunties in the neighborhood, and they always sitting out in the alley minding everybody's business. So they're listening to them have sex outside the window. They getting themselves all hot and bothered. Lord, by the time it was over, they needed cigarettes and drinks, and they sitting outside on the walk. So that part was hilarious. But after that, they ended up going on a honeymoon to the same place that their parents went because the honeymoon that they had planned had got botched and everything else, and they were swindled out of money and some other stuff. And all through the movie, there's flashbacks of memories, and then once they start talking about this guy who was the best friend of the dad that the mom had an affair with, they start showing flashbacks of them on their honeymoon. And he turns and he smiles and he waves. So when the son gets in the car, and I'm telling you, this is casting. When the son turns to get in the car and he turns around and he smiles and he waves at his parents, I swear to God, he looked just like the guy who is the best friend. And that's how it plays out in the movie. But I'm not talking about, oh, they see, and I seen it with my own. I don't know, he looked just like that man. Crazy. So when I seen it, the dad seen it. And he didn't know. And the whole time I'm thinking he knew. The whole movie I'm thinking he knew. And he didn't know. And he just stopped waving and his face got solemn. And he went in the house and he sat down. And so his wife and his younger son come in and they're all happy that, the couple is together and they left on their honeymoon and everything. And he's sitting there and he said, I just noticed something. He said when he turned back and the way he smiled, that smile, it could have been him. And she just walked over to him and hugged him and was like, I'm so sorry. And he just sat there and cried. And that's how the movie went off. And I was like, this is supposed to be like some bumbling idiot father, comedy. This movie had so many like serious parts and nuances that I'm just like, wow. Because I was hurt. When he sat there and he cried when he realized that his wife had cheated on him with his best friend and his oldest son was not his son. And that man sat there in that kitchen and cried at that table. I felt that. I didn't cry, ironically enough, because y'all know I've turned it into a little tissue paper mush lately. I did not cry, but I felt that. So it was like the turmoil going on between the husband and wife, the younger husband and wife, and the turmoil going on between the older husband and wife is what brought the drama to this rom-com. But man, it was a good movie. So it's called, what I just said was, it's a time, All in Good Time. All in Good Time with uh Manish Patel, Harish Patel, not Manish, Harish Patel and Amara Karan. Very good movie. It's available. I don't even know where I watched it. Oh, I watched it on some BFI, something on Prime Network. BFI did a 7 day trial so I could watch that, and I'm gonna get rid of that. I ain't gonna do what I did with that BritBox to keep it. I ain't keeping it. I'm gonna get rid of it. But I just wanted to talk to y'all and tell y'all that if y'all have not seen Amara Karan in something, you should see her in something because she is good. And that's all. That's all I wanted to come tell y'all. I'll just give y'all a rundown. She's on in the Max original, Fired on Mars. It's a cartoon. I haven't watched that because I don't do cartoons, even adult cartoons. I don't really do them. She's in Hope Street. She's done episodes of the Midsummer Murders and Twilight Zone. There is another one that I haven't watched. It's called The Death and Life of John F. Donovan. That one is streaming on Amazon Prime, and I haven't watched that one. Now, Lucky Man, you can only rent or buy it. She's in a lot of the episodes, and it's a Stan Lee. It's like it's a Stan Lee movie that's not based on one of his comics. So just on the strength of Stan Lee, may he rest in peace, I may watch that. She's in Bancroft. She's not in all of them, but she's in a couple. And Bancroft is on BritBox, so I might watch that. Um, and let's see, The Ambassadors. That's also on BritBox. I haven't watched that yet. And then there's something called A Fantastic Fear of Everything. It looks absolutely stupid, but I might watch it anyway. But the first thing that she did out of school, because she did not actually go to acting school right off, and she has like a degree in political science or something like that. So she's a bit of a brainiac on top of being an amazing actress. But she did a movie with Owen Wilson. I think it's Owen Wilson. I never know which is which, but I think it's the one with the broken nose. But with him and Adrian Brody. And I figured that would be good because both of the Wilson boys are dope, and Adrian Brody's dope. So, and now I know that Amara Karan is dope. So it's probably a good movie. But I haven't watched it yet. Can't find it on this little list right here that it gives you of movies. But I've given y'all some stuff. So I done gave y'all Jadu, The Night of, um, Hope Street, and what else? It was something else. And All in Good Time. Those are two series and two movies that you can watch and see if you agree with me. Maybe you agree, maybe you don't. I have really been talking to you guys for a half hour, so I know some of you are just not going to watch this, but it's okay. I just like to talk. I want to talk to you guys. I want to tell you what's going on in my living room. So I'm telling you what's going on in my living room. Everybody have a blessed day.